Okay, we should be recording. So we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, today we're going to be going over the suggested, so before we get started, a couple of the main reasons for doing this is since we're going to be, I don't know if word has spread yet. I know it's been announced at some of the PAAE meetings, but housing is going to be in East Hall's complex once again. I know some of you might be really happy to hear that. Some of you may have grown accustomed to being in Pollock, and some of you have never attended a convention with housing in East Halls as a teacher. So we just wanted to go over some of the suggested processes and protocol for arriving, checking in, and even if you do remember attending convention in East Halls complex does not look the way you might remember it. There's now buildings where there was once parking lots and lots of stuff going on there. So we wanted to get you reacquainted with what to expect with that. We'll go over some parking stuff, show you exactly the exact locations of the dorms that both genders were going to be housed in, talk about bus loading and unloading for CDEs, dining halls, checkout procedure, and then open it up for hopefully about 30 minutes of Q&A. So we're going to take a quick break from the PowerPoint here and look at the campus interactive maps. All right. Is everybody able to see that? Okay. Hopefully everybody can. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. Oh, not that much. So, and you can feel free, map.psu.edu, if you'd like to explore this a little bit before June 11th comes. It may not be a bad idea. So my suggested route of entry, and you're all free to do whatever you want, but my suggestion is this is the East Halls complex, okay? This is the infamous Park Avenue that runs between campus and North Campus where the Arboretum and the Law Building is. And this would be what, Curtin and Bigler. And East Halls is contained in this square right here. So moving in a little bit closer, okay, again, this is Park Avenue. Headquarters is going to be once again in Findlay Commons, where it historically has always been. And as a matter of fact, if we zoom in a little bit further, headquarters is going to be on that would be east side of the building, right in this general area here. So you can get in through Johnston Commons and walk through. There's a couple points of entry. Most of you are going to want to come in through this north entrance right here. So my suggested plan of entry is to come in from either direction on Park Avenue and enter right here into this entrance into the parking lot, and park in some of these spaces right here, and you'll have 30 minutes with your four-way flashers on to come into headquarters. Again, you're going to park your vans here, get out, and then most likely pursue this sort of path into Findlay Commons here. So that's my suggested route. As you'll notice, there's a couple other parking areas in East Halls, and if you so choose, you could come off of Park Avenue, drive through this parking lot and park into one of these lots, and then have a slightly shorter walk, but not a whole lot to make it worth it, in my opinion, into headquarters in Findlay Commons. Again, if you wanted to, you could come in this, the stadium, zoom out a little bit. Whoop, a little too much again. The stadium and the Bryce Jordan Center is out here. This would be University Drive. You could come in Curtin Road here and turn into one of the parking lots here and walk over. You're free to do what you like. But again, if this is your first time bringing students to state convention, or your first time going to East Halls, since a lot of the construction and renovation has taken place, again, my suggested entry is off of Park Avenue. Come in and just park. There's plenty of parking in these spaces here. Now, you only have 30 minutes to park there till you come in, get your registration packet materials, and go back out and meet your kiddos and to start distributing materials. All right. Okay. So again, that's the suggested arrival check-in and procedure process there. Again, as I said, you'll have 30 minutes with your four-ways on in that parking lot by Hastings Hall, which, if you remember, there used to be more parking lots over in East Hall's complex than there is now. They actually built a new dorm building on a portion of that parking lot area. Once you have your materials, you're going to need to move your vehicle to East Deck. Okay. Yep, Melissa, go ahead.
The parking passes that everybody will receive for FFA Activities Week. Obviously, we encourage you to park in East Hall or the East Deck, but the parking pass will also be good for the Eisenhower parking deck, which is the parking deck closer to Pollock Commons that people have utilized in the past. And then also the parking pass can be used for Bryce Jordan Center as well. So if for some reason East Deck is full or you just don't feel the need to park there, you do have two other options as well.
Okay. So Hannah asked a question here that I did want to make mention of. We don't have a specific area picked out for buses remaining on site yet, do we?
Bryce Jordan Center.
Bryce Jordan. Okay. Hannah asked the question, is the procedure for buses the same as vans? And the answer is yes. However, if the bus is not remaining on site, we ask that the bus come into that parking area, unload, and then move, or either leave completely to go back home, or if the bus is going to remain on site for the duration of the convention, the bus will be stored out in the Bryce Jordan Center stadium parking lot area. And I guess we'll have passes for that bus. Yeah, we'll have passes for the bus if it's remaining on site. Again, if it's not, if it's just dropping off and leaving, if the bus driver wants to stick around to make sure that everything's good before they head off, that's fine. But again, parking area is reduced over in East Halls compared to what it used to be and what you might remember. And we're going to have a lot of vehicles coming in and out of that area. So we ask that you only, whatever vehicle it is, whether it's a bus or a school van, that you only remain in that parking area for no more than 30 minutes before either moving to East Deck or over to the Bryce Jordan stadium lots. Again, if I know some people like to roll the dice, and there's other little parking areas around East Halls. If you'd like to roll the dice and leave your van there, again, you're free to take that risk, but just be aware that there's a high likelihood that you will get a ticket or perhaps even be towed at the university parking authority's discretion. As Melissa just said, East Deck, the question, I got an email yesterday about the clearance of East Parking Deck. The overhead sign at the entrance to East Parking Deck lists the entrance as 8'2". According to the College of Ag Sciences parking office, they have it listed as 8'4", so 2 inches more clearance, and that is on the entry and first level only, which is also where they recommend or where they say oversized vehicles, and they don't really give a definition on what constitutes an oversized vehicle, but they want oversized vehicles on the bottom or first level. Okay. Now, as Melissa just stated, there's construction vehicles. There's, East Parking Deck is a really, really busy parking garage. The likelihood of you getting a space on those bottom two levels is not very good. If you do need to go up onto levels 2 to 5, the clearance of those levels is listed as 7'6". So if you want to take a little, see what your van measures before you leave, just to double check, you'll be good. But I think most school vehicles should be good. OPP drives their utility vans in and out of there all the time. There's quite a lot of large pickup trucks, so I think most school vehicles should be okay. Yeah, and I dare bring this up. I'd really like to see some reserved parking areas for FFA convention. The likelihood of that happening is not very good, but we're still going to pursue it and see what we can do. But if there is none, then just park wherever. I mean, the pass gets you in, and wherever you can fit your van safely. Just and also be aware that the parking office does like to hand out tickets for vehicles that are on top of the line or over the line that separates spaces. So wherever you can maneuver your vehicle into to store it, feel free to do so. All right. Okay, and Melissa's going to go over your housing areas. Yep.
Okay, so as John indicated, we are back in East Halls this year, which Mr. Brammer is very happy about. However, we're not able to eat in East Halls because they're closed for the summer. So we will be housed in East and we'll be eating in Pollock. But so you have an idea of what dorms we will be in. The female dorms will be Martin Hall, Pennypacker Hall, and Stewart Hall. And the male dorms are Hastings Hall, Snyder Hall, Stone Hall, and Earl Hall. Now, there may be a little bit of shift in these dorms given the numbers once we get that into housing. But as of right now, those are the dorms they're indicating. A couple of these halls that we'll be using are the newly renovated dorms that have more of the quad type setup and individual bathrooms per quad. So some students will get to take advantage of those new dorms. And hopefully that'll bode well for us in the future, as hopefully we'll get back to East completely. And then the other thing to remember is when you come to registration and check-in, to be able to pick up your keys from housing, you need to make sure you have some sort of photo ID, which usually everybody has their driver's license, but just make sure you have that with you.
Okay. So again, bus loading and unloading, should have just kept that map up. One of the reasons that we need this parking area by Hastings Hall left open is this is where CDE bus loading and unloading is going to occur. Now, most schools should be in and registered by the time the first buses come in on Tuesday afternoon. And Tuesday afternoon is not a large number of buses. It's typically Wednesday morning that the issue is. But nevertheless, after registration check-in occurs, we're going to need this parking lot kept pretty clear. If for no other reason, for Wednesday morning, but we, come Tuesday afternoon, we are going to have 3, 4, 5 buses coming in here, parking for loading and unloading for Tuesday afternoon CDEs. So again, you will not be able to just leave your vans in this parking lot indefinitely. After you're done with, getting your kiddos and their luggage off and getting your registration packets, we do need you to move your van over to East Parking Deck. And again, I don't think I showed you this, but if you're not familiar for whatever reason with campus, there's East Halls, and right here is East Parking Deck. Okay. One other point that I just wanted to mention, again, another reason for the suggested route of entry for check-in and registration is to come in this parking lot. Some of you may remember coming in this little parking lot that comes in right next to Finley Commons. That is not an option right now because, as you see, there's quite a number of dorm buildings going through renovation right now. This is a construction entrance right now. You cannot just freely go in and out of this parking lot. Again, the choice is yours as to whether you want to come in and park in one of these little lots. But again, my suggested route is to come in here, park here, unload your stuff, and then move over to the parking deck. All right.
One thing too, talking about some of the halls that we'll be in, like Pennypacker, which has a little bit of a parking lot behind it. After you get through registration, if you want to move your van and unload at Pennypacker before you would go to the parking garage, I mean, that would be more than acceptable as well. And it would make it easier for you and your students to get everything unloaded.
Right. The main point is we just have to keep that parking lot open for buses in the afternoon. So. Okay. So dining halls. Melissa, do you want to talk about
Sure.
the dining?
Sure. So as I said earlier, we are unfortunately having to eat in Pollock this year because East is offline due to construction. So we will be eating breakfast and dinners in Pollock Commons, on dinner on Tuesday, breakfast on Wednesday, and then breakfast on Thursday and dinner on Wednesday. And again, Tuesday is the box lunch for everybody. But in the registration packet, in the FFA handbook booklet that gets put in all of the packets, there will be a map indicating direct route to Pollock Commons from East Halls, which is pretty simple. You just need to shoot straight down Bigler Road, and that'll take you right down to Pollock Commons. But, you know, obviously you're going to need to plan accordingly because it's going to be probably at least a 5-minute walk to get down there. So if you're pushing it for time, you might have to eat and then go right to session. But, you know, Pollock is a really nice commons, and most of you that have been here in the last few years are very familiar with it. So navigating Pollock Commons should not be an issue. But you can also see that the time frames there for breakfast are 6 to 8:30, and dinner is from 4 to 6:30. And you know, you can come anytime in that time frame, and hopefully by spreading it out a little bit, hopefully that'll help alleviate some of the big influx of congestion that we've had in years past.
And as a reminder, you must plan. I know that Activities Week and convention is taxing on everybody's time, and we've got teachers, students spread thin here, there, everywhere. But between you and your chaperones, you must make accommodations and plans to have your students escorted and supervised to and while in Pollock Dining Hall for the breakfast and dinner meal. So we understand that that's not logistically always the easiest thing to cover, but you know, work with your chaperones ahead of time, know approximately when your CDE wraps up. And if you're going to have a chaperone escort students down to the dining hall, they must be accompanied by an authorized adult. So just plan accordingly on that. Okay.
And then for checkout, pretty simple. You need to return all your keys to the Finley Commons desk. And then obviously we always ask that every school comes and picks up their results packet at headquarters, which will be in 122 Finley, which there you can also pick up your scrapbooks and any medications that your students might have left with a nurse, as well as any additional materials like chapter applications or anything that you may have dropped off during registration.
Yep, and if you're one of the 20 teams entered into the PA Ag STEM Design Build Challenge, those entries are also going to be registered and stored in the area by the East Market in Findlay Commons. And those can be picked up anytime after 6:30 in the morning on Thursday, June 13th. So if you wanted to get all of your stuff loaded and ready to hit the road so that you're good to go as soon as session ends, you can also grab that stuff again anytime after 6:30 if you wanted to get it loaded up before session.
One other positive thing too about being housed in East, which I failed to mention earlier, FFA will be the only event that will be housed in East during the time that we're on campus. So there will be no other student groups or sports groups or anything being housed in East. So it'll be strictly just FFA. Now, when you go to eat in the Commons, there will be other groups that you'll be interacting with. But as far as staying and being at the dorms, it'll just be FFA.
Right. Steps in the right direction. Okay, that was the main points that Melissa and I wanted to go over. We have approximately 33 minutes allocated. Does anybody have any questions? You know, first timers, folks that have never attended or brought students to state convention being housed in East. What are your questions? Again, you can raise your hand and or type your questions into the chat box. Okay. Liz, you had a question. Yep, got to unmute you there.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep, we got you, Liz.
Okay. I joined late, so I apologize if this was already answered. But where and when will the rooms for contests be published, or are they pretty much in the same place as before?
The room locations, and I should have done this earlier. I'm going to promote Mr. Brammer as a panelist so he can chime in at will. But the room locations for CDEs are posted in the program as usual.
Okay.
I don't think that those locations were posted in any document that has been released yet, but they'll be in the program. That'll be in your registration packets.
Okay. I just, every year, you know, there might be construction or whatever, so I didn't know if there would be any prior notice.
Mr. Brammer just put into the chat box that the packet is on the website, and that lists room locations. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else have a question? Okay. We don't need to, belabor this any more than need be. Melissa and I will remain on till everybody else is off. Feel free to stick around and ask questions as much as, before you leave, I want you to do my poll. If you could answer these two questions, if you're joining from a computer, that would be great. And again, Melissa and I will stay on for as long as we have anybody else still signed on and answer any questions you might have individually. But unless you do have a question, you're free to go. A recording of this will be sent out on the listserv tomorrow. So if you had a colleague or a friend in the profession that was not able to join us this evening, you can direct them to that recording and they will hear everything that you just heard. So thank you to everybody that joined. And if anything comes up in the coming weeks, let us know. And if not, we'll see you in June. Thank you.
So how many?
Hey, John, can you hear me?
Yep. Sorry, we got you.
No, that's all right. One thing that did come up, I wasn't sure if this is just for my own students, so I was just going to wait till the end here to bring that up. It seems some of my students are more flaky than ever. If I have a student that drops out, and am I able to substitute someone in and make that change if that would happen due to grades or behavior or anything like that? Or do I just take whatever I have left on that team? I've never had this happen before, so I'm just kind of thinking ahead to see what my options would be if I would have a student that would drop last minute.
That's really a Mr. Brammer question. I think a Mr. Brammer board type decision, I think.
Yeah, I mean, this is Melissa, if you do have that happen and Mr. Brammer's okay with the substitution, I mean, you would need to call our office so we can get it updated in the system.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with John. That's probably Mr. Brammer decision.
Okay.
Yep. I mean, you can certainly loop us in because the quicker we can get CDE registration lists accurate, the better. So if we're a part of the conversation, but ultimately, I don't think we would really do anything until Mr. Brammer okays it anyway.
Okay. That sounds good. And like I said, I don't foresee that happening, but I know last year we did have a student drop out. We were able to fill it with a single that was already in that contest, but it just seems that commitment is a foreign concept to many of our students these days. So
Right.
I want to just know my options in case that would happen, so we wouldn't kind of sacrifice the other team members if I was able to sub someone in there. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks, Doug.
Sure. Thank you.
Yep. Have a good one.
You too.
Are they still on?
Ryan, Carly, either of you have a question?